Hey guys, it's Shelby, and today I'm going to be adding to a series that you may have seen on my channel before, where I talk a little bit about some misconceptions or things that we got wrong about sustainability and all that kind of stuff. If you didn't already know, I do have a bachelor's degree in environmental science. I've also been trying to live a sustainable lifestyle for like 10-ish years, and so I picked up a lot of things along the way. I've learned specifically how to look at an issue and not just think of it as so simple. Most of the things that have to do with like being more sustainable or improving the way we operate, produce something, there's a lot more factors that go into it than just saying this is bad and this is good and that's it. And just before we get into it, I do want to give a huge thank you to Skillshare for partnering with me on this video. If you guys have never heard of Skillshare, you should definitely check them out, because this month I'm so excited. If you guys have been following me over on Instagram, I've been getting really into doodling on my iPad, and I found this iPad illustration course on Skillshare by a man named Robert, which I am so pumped to get into this month. So if you guys want to get 2 months free of Skillshare's premium membership, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description are going to get that, but we'll talk a little bit more about the course I'm taking at the end of this video. And without further ado, let's get into it. We're gonna start out slow with this one and talk about a misconception I had before I understood the zero waste movement, right? So I thought I was living an eco-friendly lifestyle. I thought I knew about sustainability before I found the term and the lifestyle that is now known as zero waste. And when I first found out about it, it made no sense to me why people were making DIYs that required them to buy multiple little bottles or like boxes of stuff, and how that was better than just buying the single bottle of, say, mouthwash. So I don't make a ton of DIYs, but I thought I would use my mouthwash as an example. But let's focus on like deodorant, right? So people would be like,
you're gonna make your own deodorant. So what you need to have is baking soda, coconut oil, arrowroot powder, essential oils, like
multiple ingredients, right? And whenever I used to hear that, I'd be like, but how is buying like multiple essential oil bottles to use on this one thing, and then multiple like bags or boxes of baking soda to make this thing, and then this powder, didn't they buy all of that in packaging, and how is that better? And like not realizing that like the multiple products could be used more than once. So even if you did have 4 packages, those 4 packages can make like 20 rounds of your deodorant, whereas buying deodorant in a plastic tube is only used one time. And not only that, but a lot of the times when people are talking about DIY recipes, they're getting those things package free from package free shops. And not only that, but the materials, even if they are coming in packaging, right? So if you're buying baking soda in a cardboard box, much better than buying deodorant in a plastic tube in terms of recyclability and how you can dispose of those things being friendly to the earth. But also, like, best solution for me is to not have to DIY anything and just get my deodorant, which is plastic free now, aluminum free, vegan, cruelty free, all that good stuff. Native deodorant, I'll link it below in case you guys want. I have a discount code with them. But that is a misconception I had once upon a time, which is not really the theme of this series. I just wanted to throw that out there to kind of gauge where you guys are on that topic. And to start off slow, because the rest of the topics we're gonna get into are a little bit heavy. So this next misconception, or really just something that people don't talk about very often, is that soil regeneration in our agricultural system could stop climate change. This is a little bit of a complicated topic, but it's also something that seems so simple to explain right now that it's almost like, but how does that work? It's so confusing. So let's just go over it. There are nutrients in our soil. I'm sure most of you know this. It's a topic that I'm super passionate about because I love to do research into eutrophication. It's like my dream job to be a professor that has to do with eutrophication. The way we are currently farming, our farming practices, take those nutrients out of the soil and then like move on. But conventional agriculture as it stands currently are not concerned with maintaining soil health. They'll put a plant in the ground that takes more of one nutrient out of the soil, and once they've extracted all of those nutrients from the soil, they just move on to a soil that is, you know, able to produce that crop. The issue with this is, you guys probably also know this, plants take CO2 out of the ground. Plants take CO2 out of the air and put it into the ground, which makes our soil a carbon sink. Taking carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it into the soil would literally stop climate change if we just started using our soils correctly. That is the very basic explanation of it, but something that literally like no one talks about, right? And I wanted to put it in here to bring it to your attention because we talk about cars. Some people talk about veganism and how that impacts climate change, which I think is important. We talk a lot about individual actions. We talk about a lot about consumerism and how much resources go into every single thing we buy. And I shouldn't say we talk a lot about that. I talk a lot about that because I think that's really important. And I think we talk about solutions in all these areas, but no one ever brings up soil. And I think that's for a good reason because you and we're not the farmers, so we can't change anything like that. And I think specifically on my channel, I like to focus on things that you can implement into your life pretty immediately. That's kind of my forte. But it is important, I think, as consumers and as people who vote and as people who can advocate for change, that we know that proper soil rotation and maintenance can help a lot in regards to climate change. But not only climate change, when soil is healthy, it also helps bring in water. If soil is really dried out, not healthy, not having a lot of nutrients, water can really run off and create flooding, create dead zones in our oceans. So many problems surrounding soil, which just makes sense because the majority of Earth's surface has soil. Obviously, naturally would have a large part in our ecosystem and maintaining it or making it good or bad. And I would love to hear in the comments if you knew this issue was a thing or if you didn't. Essentially right now, our soils are acting more in causing climate change than reducing it, when it could literally be the opposite if we would just implement measures to make farmers take more care of their land, because they're not going to do it on their own. Their concern is making money. And that's where the government comes in, and that's where you come in to vote for people who give a shit about that. One more thing before we move on. A lot of you guys often ask me for audiobook recommendations, and so I'll have my big list of like broad audiobooks that I recommend linked below. But one thing that I really am interested in reading soon, like I already said I took soil science, but normally when you take classes, they're focused on the science, right? So like the problem and how things interact and how those have impacts on around the world, all that kind of thing. But I recently found out there's an audiobook called The Soil Will Save Us. And I think that focuses on solutions and kind of how we can help impact it and how farmers can implement better practices and how you can support farmers who do implement those practices. I don't really know because I haven't listened to it yet, but it is on my list to do soon. So I'll have that link below if you want to check that out too. Next up is a topic that maybe you've heard of before and maybe you haven't. So I'm going to try to explain the basics of the problem without assuming that any of you know about it. And if you do, you're just gonna listen anyway, I guess. So first up, palm oil is something that has been in the news a lot recently. You might hear a lot of environmentalists talking about it, what the problems are and all that kind of thing, and why many environmentalists just flat out boycott palm oil. So palm oil is a oil that comes from a palm tree, obviously. Not the kind of palm trees typically that you see growing in like your backyard. These are grown like in the rainforest a lot of the times in very tropical areas of the world. And the issue largely with palm oil is that they end up growing these trees, chopping the entire tree down to get like the small little section of the tree to produce this palm oil. But the bigger problem with this is that orangutans typically live in these trees in these habitats where palm is growing naturally. And when a company comes in to harvest the palm oil and just slashes all of these forests down, obviously that causes huge issues for these animals. Doing that sort of farming practices has impacts not only on large mammals, but also small reptiles, little things that live in the soil, the way that water interacts with the ground in areas like that. Like farming practices like that are not sustainable in large picture, but the orangutan has been the face of palm oil, and so a lot of people have, boycott it, just avoid palm oil at all costs. The misconception here is actually that palm oil is one of the most sustainable oils when we look at the entire footprint of this item. How could that be? And that is because I'm always telling you guys, I want to practice and implement and teach people more about focusing on entire supply chains, right? So supply chain means from beginning to the end of a product's life cycle. And right now, the zero waste movement largely focuses on the end of the life cycle of a product. If something is disposable, no. If something is, plastic, no. But whenever you look at the entire footprint of a product, it shows you an entirely different view of like what is sustainable and what is not. And palm oil is the perfect example of that, right? If we only focus on the orangutans and the issues there, we would think palm oil is terrible, never buy it. But if you knew that if people are farming palm oil sustainably, aka growing it in areas that other life forms are not dependent on that farm's existence, then it's not hurting anyone, or any animals I should say, but it is able to grow a larger amount of oil per acre than other oils. When you look at the full supply chain of palm oil, that crop is the highest yielding per acre with 3.8 tons versus 0.8 tons for rapeseed and 0.7 tons for sunflower oil. Basically meaning when you do a full life cycle assessment, palm oil takes a lot less land and inputs to grow than pretty much any other form of oil that we are using in product. And that's why palm oil is so popular, because it's cheaper when you don't have to have as much land or work as hard to get the oil than you do if you're using some other form of plant. There are unsustainable aspects of palm oil farming, but if done responsibly, it can be one of the most sustainable oils in terms of resources. So many experts have come out and said that boycotting palm oil is not the solution, is not the best thing we can do. Supporting sustainably farmed palm oil in many cases is the best option for the environment. But where this gets tricky is it's actually pretty hard to track down palm oil. A lot of times the companies that you're buying these products from that have palm oil in them are not tracking them to know if it is farmed sustainably or not, and so it makes it really hard as a consumer to know if you're supporting sustainable palm oil or not. And that's why I say sustainability is not just straightforward, it's quite nuanced, and sometimes it's hard to make the perfect decision, because in this case, unless you can trust the company and the company that you're buying something from does have that stamp of sustainable palm oil and more details as to how it's sustainable maybe on their website, it's hard to trust them. Basically, this video, the basis of it is let's explore issues that are nuanced, that are not simple as do this and don't do that. I'll try to link some more information below about why boycotting palm oil is not the best solution. The Smithsonian posted a really good article that explains it quite briefly and helps you understand, and I respect the Smithsonian so much. That was like my dream internship when I first graduated from college. But I would love to hear from you in the comments if you are choosing to just completely boycott palm oil because of the issues and you can't completely tell how it's being farmed, or if you are someone who is willing to support brands that are using sustainably sourced palm oil, how you personally feel on this after hearing me explaining like the full picture of what palm oil is. But those are just some of the topics that I wanted to talk about today that are a little bit more nuanced, misconceptions, things we got wrong, all that kind of thing. And I really hope you go and watch the other videos in this little series, because I talk about some other really thought-provoking things, and I just love to hear your feedback on all of those. So I'll have those linked below, and I want to give another huge thank you to Skillshare for partnering with me on this video, because I'm super pumped to take this course this month, and they're going to give you guys 2 months of their premium membership for free, and after the 2 months it's only about $10 a month to maintain your membership, so why wouldn't you want to? Let's talk a little bit more about the course I'm taking. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring courses for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity. Like I said, I'm so excited to take this course called iPad Illustration, Line Drawing Essentials for Fun, Flexible Art. This is something I've recently gotten into ever since we've been in lockdown, and I've been having a lot of issues with my mental health, as you may know if you follow me on Instagram, and drawing on my iPad has been one of the best things I've done recently. And if you're looking for new creative challenges during this uncertain time, definitely check out Skillshare. Like I said, they have over 30,000 courses over there, so there is definitely something for everyone. Whether you're looking to fend off boredom, focus on self-care through creativity, or join a similarly creative community, Skillshare is the best place to keep learning. So like I said, Skillshare is giving away 2 months free of their premium membership to the first 1,000 people who click the link in my description box to help you explore your creativity. And after that, it's only about $10 a month. So make sure you check it out and let me know in the comments which of their courses you are excited to be taking. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do.